intentions and our actions better with your presence. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Can we get a microphone on Natalie? Absolutely. That way we could. Would you be comfortable holding a microphone up? All right. We want to make sure this is recorded for posterity's sake. There you go. Let's start again. I, Natalie.
I, Natalie Hopkins,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well
that I will well
and faithfully discharge
and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which
the duties upon which
I'm about to enter.
I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. So, welcome to the board. And thank you to Grandma Marta for joining us. Please, we're going to ask you to take a seat with us. Oh, you're going to say student trustee.
Okay. Welcome, Natalie.
So both your mics are on right now. If you want to leave them on, just press the button at the top. Make sure it's green light.
How exciting. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now we will move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion for approval?
Move approval and with gratitude for the a bunch of little donations that came in.
Yes,
$100, small donation.
very much appreciated. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rachel? Okay. Now, student trustees, we need your vote. So how do you vote?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and Nick, you caught that?
I did indeed, President Roth.
Okay, so the rest of the board, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you on your first earth-shaking vote. Item number 7, correspondence. Nick, is there anything that has come in?
We have received no correspondence after the agenda was published, President Roth.
Okay, thank you. Number 8 on the agenda is 8.1 annual report, Williams legislation. Status of decile 1 through 3 schools, Pajaro Valley Unified School District, Pacific Elementary School District, San Lorenzo Valley School District, and Santa Cruz City District. Dr. Small.
Yes, we are fortunate to have former Deputy Superintendent of the County Office of Education, Brian Wall, who has been working with us in retirement, although I don't think he ever has retired. He has been working nonstop, supporting this county office and supporting me personally for quite some time. One of the tasks that Mr. Wall is responsible for is the Williams legislation reviews of schools. And this is something that is required for the County Office of Education, well, all county offices of education across the state. And Mr. Wall is going to be providing us a report about the findings of the Williams study visitations for this year. Thank you, Mr. Wall, for being here.
Well, thank you, Ferris, and good afternoon. This is my yearly visit to the board, I guess. Used to be here every time, so it's good to see all of you. One of the things that's has come up is that this is a fairly old legislation. Actually, it's this passed actually in 2004, so this has been going on for quite a while, 20 years basically. And it was essentially a lawsuit, Williams versus the state of California. It was really for the students of the state of California to make sure that they had, what they needed to learn in their classrooms. So I wanted to just mention a few things. I think Sue, you already mentioned the districts that we've, that I visited. I do want to go over just real quickly the schools that we visited. This year there were 10. There's a 3-year cohort, and then in the 3rd year in the spring, we get a new list of schools. The same schools may be on it, and then they may add more. So what we're getting for this year, just as an update, is that we're probably going to triple our number of schools. So we'll probably be at about 30 schools next year. And the visits have to be done in the first 20 days of school. So it's going to be quite a chore to fit all that in. It's probably going to be, visiting 3 schools a day or something like that for those first 20 days of school. So I want to just give you a little bit of an update as far as, what we're looking for. For one thing, this is just for equitable access for kids. The things that we're looking for, and the reason that people can land on our list, would be insufficient instructional materials, poor facilities, teacher credentialing, people teaching out of their assignments, 15% or more teachers teaching out of assignment or their credentialed area. And then also could be graduation rate below a certain standard, okay? So one of the things that comes up, has come up in the past, and it's been a little bit of a glitch for Williams, is that the teacher credentialing component is in the rears every year. So what we've done statewide now is we've tightened it up a little bit so that we're more current. So one of the things that we do now in the visit is we actually ask the principal on the day of the visit, are there any non-credentialed teachers on your staff today? Okay, and that's made a big difference. And then we verify that with our HR department and the district's HR department. So we're pretty content that we're getting good answers on that. And what we're finding is that people are doing really well on hiring fully credentialed teachers in their subject areas. I think it's gotten much better. One of the other things that's changed a little bit is the facility instrument that we use. We're also looking for upgrades to HVAC and things like that because of COVID. So that didn't used to be on the list, but now it is. So we're looking a little bit more at ventilation systems when we go into schools and making sure those are up to date and their filtration systems are up to date. The other thing that we look for is making sure that the uniform complaint policy is posted in each classroom. One of the issues that we find, statewide, is that this is really a complaint process mostly for parents. And the issue that we have is that the notice is posted inside the classroom. So how many parents actually get to see that? So we're doing a lot more outreach, letting parents know that instrument exists. Okay. So we visited schools from August to October. We already talked about a little bit about the districts that we visited. The schools that we visited this year were Bayview Elementary, Calabasas Elementary, Delta, EA Hall Middle School, McQuitty Elementary, Pacific Elementary, Pajaro Valley High School, Rolling Hills Middle School, San Lorenzo Valley Middle School, and our Career Advancement Charter. So what we found was that everybody's really cooperative, for one thing. I think that it's been, in the past, it's been seen as almost oppressive. And I think now it's seen more as a partnership. And so when we go there to look at their facilities, one of the district facilities person is usually there. And we do a collaborative view and talk about the things that, you know, need to be taken care of. And what I would say is that from last year's visit to this year's visit, every one of the schools addressed the things that we were concerned about. There were no glaring problems with their facilities this year. Everything had been updated and everything had been repaired that we asked to be repaired. So that's pretty phenomenal. That hasn't been that way in the past. So we had a really good year this year. Didn't see any teacher misassignments this year in any of the schools. And I would say that everybody had their uniform complaint policies up in English and Spanish. As far as sufficient materials, everybody had sufficient instructional materials that address the core academic standards, the state standards. A lot of schools now are going with digital, but they also have take home for the kids. So one of the mandates for Williams is that also you have materials to have at home too, so that you can access the curriculum from home and school. Okay. I think that's it. Okay. Any questions? All right. Thanks.
I
We'll see.
have a
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
question. If a student, it's digital material
Mhm.
and they do not have a computer at home, is that something that's verified that we then give them a laptop or a workbook?
Yeah, they have the ability to check out a tablet now.
Okay,
And
rather than having to have in the
yeah,
print.
they can be issued a textbook, but if it's digital in the classroom, then it'll probably be digital at home. But they're, you know, they can check out a tablet. So if they don't have access to that personally, they can get one from the school.
And I don't know where we stand on the internet access on all students. It's a big thing during
Mhm.
COVID.
We didn't really, you know, we asked about that, you know, each of the principals, you know, do they have internet access? And they've all kind of addressed that in one way, shape or form. So we felt pretty solid about that too.
Great.
Just have a comment / question. So the scores are really amazing. You know, there's a very, small gap. I'm just curious to see, is there an established like benchmark for these facilities? I mean, there's some that rated 100%, which means I'm assuming that means that there were no issues at all
Right.
found, and some that slightly fell below. So question is is there a benchmark, and what is the difference between those school facilities that maybe 96 versus 100?
So the lowest percentage we got was 83%, and that by the Williams standard, the, you know, facility standard is still it's considered a good percentage. We went all the way to 100% because we had 3 schools that have been completely remodeled this year so that they were 100%. I mean, there were just no glaring errors whatsoever. So that's kind of why you have that range. Geez, Nick.
Set you up for that one. My apologies.
Okay, we got it. All right, so that range is, that's really that's kind of a set Williams range. And so, you know, our facilities person that goes with us actually has a check sheet that they bring with them to evaluate the restrooms, you know, common areas, cafeteria, and then 25% of the classrooms. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, sure. Anything else?
How do our students feel about
Oh, congratulations, by the way, on getting sworn into me. That's awesome.
it? I know this is a lot. But if you have any kind of question at all, please ask. You don't have to.
I had a question. What exactly does it mean for a teacher to be misassigned?
Well, it would be that they're not properly credentialed for the subject they're teaching in. So for instance, if you're in a high school, you're supposed to have a single subject teaching credential. So if you're a science teacher, let's say biology, you're supposed to have a life science teaching credential. And if you don't have that, then that's considered a misassignment. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if
Good
they
question.
needed an English teacher and so the biology teacher was called in to teach the English class,
Yeah.
that would be a
Right, that would be a misassignment. When they have long-term subs, that's still a legitimate credential, so that doesn't ding them. But the idea is after they have that long-term sub, then they need to hire that properly credentialed person to fill in.
One of the as mentioned earlier, when Brian began speaking, he described that next year we're looking at what is it, a tripling, a quadrupling? of-
Tripling.
Tripling the number of schools. This is an unfunded mandate from the state. Still a required responsibility of the County Office of Education. And so we anticipate a much bigger team. Right now, it's basically Brian and Richard Reed, or Brian and the other Brian from our maintenance office, who actually do the visits, but we're going to have to expand.
We actually are seeing the largest percentage increase in the state, it's threefold. Not that there are other counties where they're gonna have 250 schools. And they're gonna, really have to farm out a lot of that. And I think the thing that's nice about our county that's small is that people know us coming in and it's not a threatening environment anymore. But we'll make sure that whoever we bring on is, sticks with that kind of protocol.
Sorry, I might have missed it, but why is it tripling?
So the Williams process, the current list was actually when the API was still the Academic Performance Index. That's how the original list was established when the lawsuit took place or was settled. And so that it hasn't been updated since. We've been visiting the same schools over and over again. And so finally, after all these years, they looked at the process, and now they're using more updated criteria to qualify schools. And that means that there's a new list of schools that are sticking to the old API.
Are the criteria academic or physical or everything? Or where do
I
they?
believe
arrive
it's just academic, isn't it?
It's, for the most part, it's academic.
From the state view.
Yeah, from the state view. Primarily, it's very unusual to land there for graduation rate or anything like that. Very unusual for, teacher misassignments. I think everything, I've kind of got a glimpse of next year, and it looks to me like it was all academic for next year for us.
In what way is the criteria for?
Well, it's the state metrics now.
So the dashboards, looking at and we're going to be talking about the dashboards today. So we'll talk a little bit about the academics, because the dashboards actually just came out today. And so we'll be taking a look at how our schools are doing, and you'll get a quick overview of that. But like I said, the original academic was from late 90s. They were using criteria from back then. So it's great that they're updating it. And in some cases, I have to say, and thanks to Brian and Richard, there have been situations where they have found critical issues that needed to be addressed right away, like a dangerous situation where right then and there, they bring it to their attention, and immediately they bring an electrician and take care of that because it represented a hazard. So this is something that is important, and we're really grateful for your work, Brian.
Yeah, Phil, thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Have a good afternoon.
One other
Oh, okay.
nosy, but if a school is at the top, all green or all blue, whatever the highest, does that mean that they're not necessarily going to, even though they could have some defining problems?
If they meet if they meet the low performing criteria, they would be on the list. But if they don't meet that, they won't be on the list. But one of the things that Williams also mandates is that we get quarterly reports to see if there were any complaints. And all the school districts have to turn that in to me on a quarterly basis.
But it
So-
really is either being reported by the school or a student or a parent.
That would be, yeah, in those particular cases, those would be uniform complaints. And what we get on a regular basis is they don't have complaints, because people are really truly addressing the things they need to address.
Right, and so the original lawsuit was done by students who were coming from underrepresented communities, and saying that there was a correlation between communities of who were minoritized communities and a lack of good teachers, a lack of good facilities. And so they're using the academic criteria because that's a fundamental aspect of this. The idea is that to disrupt the inequitable practice of under-resourcing schools that are not performing. So that's why the academic criteria is so important
Thank you.
Okay, okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Say something. Okay,
Well, could you hold on? We'll get the clock
sure.
ready for public comment. Signal me when it's over. Please go ahead.
So, discussing safety at schools. High technology. Right.
We'll restart your clock in just a moment, Ms. Garrett. I apologize for that. Looks like there's an issue with connection here. Okay. It's going to be a little bit sensitive, but if you don't touch it, it should work.
I have a book called Toxic Sludge is Good for You. And the subtitle is Lies, Damn Lies, and the Public Relations Industry. We could change the title to say Toxic Microwave Radiation from all these devices is good for you. And those are lies, damn lies, and the propaganda industry that is selling this. So when you're talking about genuine safety at schools, you wouldn't be having all this Wi-Fi, broadband, cell towers. This is endangering beautiful young people, and it's documented. It's in a book called The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Life by Arthur Furstenberg and many other books. Here is just a brief paper saying danger radiation. Radiation from towers and phones and tremors is one of the symptoms. Also causes strokes and heart attacks in young people, high blood pressure, arrhythmias, asthma, flu-like illness, reduced sperm count, auditory disturbance, epilepsy, autism, attention deficit disorder, thyroid disease, cataracts, leukemia, and brain cancer. Furthermore, this is a surveillance technology. Students are being spied upon. Data is being collected. You hear of electronic waste. This is part of it. Education needs to be hands-on, person-to-person, field trips, etc., not this microwave radiation laptop. And men who put laptops here, they develop testicular cancer. Young women have all their ovaries that are being blasted. This is also related, this radiation exposure, to the infertility and the drop in populations we're hearing all over. I have been here many times, presented you with evidence, and just because something is popular, like smoking, doesn't mean it's good for you. And I call for removing this toxic technology. It's much better to have wired technology like Ethernet than the pulse microwave radiation. I'll end up with a quote from Dr. Helen Caldicott. Radio frequencies emitted from mobile telephone towers will have deleterious medical effects to people within the near vicinity, according to a large body of scientific literature. Babies and children will be particularly sensitive to the mutagenic
Thank you.
and carcinogenic effects of this radio frequency radiation.
Thank you.
I have enough copies so you can read that.
Thanks, Ms. Garrett.
Thank you for your input.
Did want to share something about I forgot to, I found the criteria that is going to be used for the schools, since that was asked. So schools that qualify for comprehensive school and improvement, which is a federal designation. And the schools eligible for ATSI, which is the state designation for academic needing academic intervention. And if they're found to have 15% or more of the school teachers that don't possess the valid or clear preliminary teaching credential.
Thank you. Now we will go to new business action items. Item number 9.1, Resolution 24-42, authorizing participation in Proposition 47, Grant for School Safety Initiatives by the Santa Cruz County Office of Education.
Yes, thank you so much, President Ross. I have the pleasure of speaking to you today about a new grant that we received under Prop 47. Part of the requirement is for you to approve a resolution for its implementation. And this is what we are implementing is a countywide diversion program in collaboration with law enforcement and all our variety of different partners. And so I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what diversion means, what this grant intends to accomplish. And it is something that I think is very exciting for us to be a part of because it's really giving new opportunities for youth who are justice involved. So the grant is a $7.1 million grant over 4 years. It is, we call it Project Ascend, which is an acronym for Achieving Success Through Community, Education, and Nurturing Development. It's modeled after the Caminos hacia el Éxito program in Watsonville PD, which is a program that's been in place for several years. Basically, what happens is that when a student is contacted by law enforcement, before forwarding the case to the district attorney for processing, the students are in certain cases are given the opportunity to be a part of a diversion program, and which allows them to participate in positive activities, receive behavioral health services, family engagement services, and a variety of other services. And as a result of that, their file is never forwarded to the district attorney, and if they're successful in completing that case, their involvement with the justice system ends there. The Caminos program has a 91% success rate, meaning that 91% of the participating students don't offend within 6 months, and even less so after the 6 months. And so it's a very successful model that we are replicating countywide. So this is, right now, it's just one law enforcement agency within the city of Watsonville. We're going to make this a program that exists for all youth under the age of 18 across Santa Cruz County with all law enforcement agencies. So we're partnering with Encompass and PVPSA to provide the support services. We're also, of course, working with all school districts and all law enforcement agencies that signed on to this grant and are participating. And in addition, we have other partnerships with different agencies to provide additional supports for students. So what is diversion? That term is used a lot, and there's an official kind of a more official definition. That's so juvenile diversion redirects youth from formal legal proceedings to supportive interventions aimed at accountability, development, and preventing future criminal behavior. So that's the official definition. Through alternative interventions, a focus on development, reduce recidivism, and promoting equity. So the Caminos program, just to give you a little bit of insight. So in the last 11 years, they've over 700 students were referred. They accepted 558, and I'll explain why some students are not accepted or why it's a smaller number. Of those 558, 469 completed the program, and of the number of youth who reoffended within 6 months was 42. And the number of community service hours completed by youth was 22,490. They participated in pro-social activities, and there was also lots of parent components that were completed. So of the 469, 427 students of the youth did not reoffend within the first 6 months. It's one of the most successful diversion programs in the state of California. Now, we are seeing that just in the last year, there were 642 referrals to probation for minors under the age of 18. We want to make that number 0 with this program. 63 students are actively on probation right now. 18 of the referrals, there were gang-related charges. There was 311 bookings into juvenile hall. And 4 youth were sentenced to the juvenile justice, kind of the Department of Justice camps that they have, which are for the most serious offenses. Those are outside of the county at this point, and I'll be talking a little bit about that a little bit later when I do my superintendent's report. But I wanted you to see that these numbers may be higher than you expected in terms of how many students are being referred to probation. And probation means they've already gone through the courts. They've already been convicted. They've already they're already serving probation, right? And that doesn't, so when we think about the number of young people that are being impacted and are justice involved, and the likelihood that they'll be unsuccessful in school, that they will continue in the judicial system, in the justice system is of concern to us and one we want to address through this program. So what the program the way it will work for any youth under the age of 18, between 12 and 18 is the age range, the program. When they're contacted by law enforcement, they could be given, there may be charges of a misdemeanor or a nonviolent felony. They would be sent to work with somebody from the Ascend team to determine if the student qualifies. And they'll look at what the qualifying, if the young person has multiple, let's say they've had multiple offenses, that may disqualify them, or the seriousness of the offense could disqualify them. But for the most part, most offenses would qualify for them to participate in diversion. But then they're presented with an opportunity to really sign in, to buy in, to participate in the program. So parents and youth have to choose to participate in the program. It is a voluntary process. They can opt out of it if they want to, which would mean that their case would probably be sent to the district attorney and they would go. And then the youth, if hopefully will opt in, they will participate in the program, which will include a variety of services, case management, pro-social activities, mentoring, community service hours, restorative practices, behavioral health services, substance use disorder services. We would coordinate with the school and provide family engagement services. And some of the partners there, the key partners are Encompass and PVPSA, who are going to be providing a lot of these services and also working closely with the school system. Our goal is that as through participating in this program, students would would be successful, and then the law enforcement agency would basically, say destroy the records of the initial contact that they've had, but it would not be forwarded over to law enforcement, to the district attorney. And students are able to move forward with their lives without having anything on the record. And so this model involves all law enforcement agencies. The district attorney is also a part of it. The COE is working with the school partners, and then these community-based organizations through relationships, resources, and referrals, really to surround students and give them this opportunity so that the impact of their involvement and the misdemeanors that they are being charged with don't actually turn into convictions. So one of the goals is to increase referrals for diversion and expand the model of the Watsonville Caminos program across the county, and to partner with all the police departments. Another goal is to ensure that our services are culturally competent. And that means that the people that are working with youth are doing so with training and experience and able to work with youth from all backgrounds. And this is, again, across the county. And of course, our goal is to reduce recidivism and improve well-being for students, helping with healing strategies and trauma-informed care. And of course, our outcomes are that the students would not have any additional offenses that lead them for any justice involvement in the future. So this is a complicated process and there's a lot of moving parts to it. We're going to be hiring staff, a manager who's would be responsible for overseeing the program. There would be youth specialists that would be the kind of the case managers that would be working directly with students. Those would be hired by the CBOs for the most part, and administrative assistants and other staff. We would provide training. We have asked the Watsonville team, the Caminos folks, to be our trainers, to be able to train everybody, and they're very excited about that. And then to them, it's really something that they're very proud of, that they have built a model program that is now going to be replicated across the county. They're really eager to do this. We would have monthly meetings, of course, professional learning opportunities. We're going to be putting out a communication plan that Nick is working on that will to let people know what we're working on and what this is going to look like. And of course, we were also thinking about sustainability. How do we ensure that these services continue? The grant is for 4 years, but then we don't want it to go away. Hopefully, we'll be able to get the grant again, but we want to institutionalize this as part of so that it's something that will continue to occur, and we want to be a model program diversion state. So timeline wise, we're looking at a launch. Well, we just got notified a few weeks ago. We're starting to put together teams, different types of teams, partners, and of course, key folks who are going to help us define, for example, the criteria for who's going to qualify, make sure that we get support from all the different agencies involved, and finalize all of the logistics and the systems, the referral systems, and all the support services by March, so that we could launch officially in April. And so you'll see it was kind of warms my heart when I see, you don't have them here, but all the logos of all our schools are, all our schools are involved, all our law enforcement agencies, and of course, a bunch of support agencies as well. It's just very exciting that we have this program, and it's something that I think is going to help change the trajectory of many young people's lives. And you'll see that Rishi Lal is the director of school safety. He's the one who actually championed this grant and worked with our grant writer to secure it. It is the biggest grant, one single grant we've ever gotten, $7.1 million. So we're very excited about that. Rishi is actually at Washington, D.C. with the Caminos team. They're working on national diversion models. And so he's at a conference right now, and why he's not here to present this to you. There's other partners there as well. And so I'll be happy to take any questions.
Bruce, I have a few. Well, first of all, this does sound fabulous, and congratulations. So I guess the first question is the Caminos program. Can you describe a little bit about how long that's been there? Kind of picturing that it probably took them some time to get it ramped up to the full program. So I want to hear about that, but it relates to then how do we ramp up this thing countywide?
So I believe the program has been in place for 12 years, I believe. It started as a grant that they received, and then they there was a Measure U, I think. I'm sure it was a Watsonville measure that institutionalized it. So now it's a permanent part of the Watsonville PD program. So they contract out with PVPSA, and they have 2 full-time staff members that are hired by the Caminos program, and they're fully integrated as part of the team in Watsonville PD. And yeah, their system for referrals and the forms and the waivers they get, or the releases for parents and all the systems that they have in place. They've been very successful. And at the same time, I think there's opportunities for improvement to be able to secure additional services and be able to, when we scale it, I think we'll be able to bring in like having I think they're still using Excel spreadsheets and, those kinds of things. And so we're looking at bringing a secure system that would allow for us for folks to be able to to document the plan that students have and make secure referrals to people as opposed to using emails and those kinds of things. And so that's going to be something that I think is going to bring a level of improvement for them as well as this new program across.
So it seems like the Caminos then is a really good model that we can build from. But to launch the whole thing by March and April, that seems very ambitious. That sounds great, but you expect to bring it in phases, or actually you want to go countywide by April?
So the folks that are going to be, we're really working with two agencies, so which is for the staffing. So we're going to have our own manager, which will be hired by the COE, and then all the support service folks will be from Encompass and PVPSA, and they'll be embedded. So we'll actually, so we have between now and April to hire and train the team. So it may not be fully robust by April, but it'll be the launch. And so I think that the sheriff's office will have at least like 2 people working with them, for example, but the other agencies have a much smaller amount of interaction with youth because of much smaller departments. And so we're planning on splitting staffing between like Scotts Valley and Capitola and so on. So there's not going to be a huge number of staff that are going to be hired. But we think that we'll be able to start pretty effectively by April.
Grant, I think Grant is to not only kind of do the work to set it up and get it going, but operate it as long as the money lasts.
Yes, yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Rachel?
Thank you. I'm really excited for this program, particularly since through Inside Education, we had a visit to the juvenile hall and see a lot of the students in their classrooms. My question around this is I have no doubt that this will be an effective and successful program, especially after having a great model that's been in place for 12 years. So looking at sort of the sustainability of it, there's always a hope that you get that grant the second time, but I think our world might look a little differently in 4 years. And so what thoughts are being planned for to make sure that this continues? Because it does take a while for programs like this to not just ramp up, but also to run seamlessly and just.
Well, I mean, I think, there's really only 2 options, right? There's government funding. I mean, generally speaking, government funding and grants. Raising the community, which we usually don't get involved in. And so I do think that this is a program that is going to be the investment that the state is putting into these kinds of programs is actually increasing. And we don't think that that's going to go away. But I also do feel like it's important for, in the same way that the city of Watsonville decided to prioritize this program, I think there may be an opportunity for us to show the smaller cities that they need to prioritize. Well, so if grant funding looks like it's not going to be available, that they would consider integrating this as part of their budgets, because the amount of money, I mean, just looking at it from a money point of view, we're looking at improving the well-being of students' lives, but the amount of, it's an investment in that the costs for probation, incarceration, all those kinds of things are just astronomical, right? And so it is not only the right thing to do for ethical reasons and in the best interest of children and youth, it's also the right thing to do as an investment. And so we're hoping that if we are able to demonstrate the success of this program as the Caminos programs has demonstrated, that it'll be something we'll be able to secure funding for in the future, make it sustainable.
A big part of that will be ensuring that we are communications front will get the word out to the public. This is what's happening. These are the successes, so that we're not asking, at the 4th year, okay, well, we need a measure, we need your money now, and there's yet another tax on you. So,
Yeah.
Would that include the county also?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, of course. So the county of Santa Cruz, which supports the sheriff's office, might be a great source for them to consider. And then the cities for some of the other departments. I think this would be, I mean, I could see this being a multi-agency that's supporting.
Edward?
Yeah, so the numbers that we were shown, that was for Watsonville, right, of the Caminos program.
Yes.
Do we know how many countywide students total are going to be affected by this? You know, how many are getting, you know, referred to the DA countywide?
So the DA, we didn't get the DA number, but we did get the number, the probation. This is countywide data. So the 600, so it isn't, it's a little awkward because you look at the dates, it's not 1 year, it's almost a year and a half. So it's kind of a weird, so it's like, got to take 2/3 of that number. But there are 642 referrals to probation in that, just that year and a half.
Okay.
That tells you maybe it's about 500, let's say, students that we think are getting referred to probation. We think that the number is bigger than that because in some cases, if it's a misdemeanor, they won't end up on probation. We did look at some other reports and we think that the number of justice-involved students acted who would probably fit this category is probably closer to about.
And my second question was about how much flexibility does the program have, or is it really like delineated on like what charges are and are not eligible for the program? Is there some wiggle room with that? Because my concern about that is just personal bias and things like that, and just making sure that the policies and procedures on that are very clear, you know, so there's not favoritism or anything like that when referring people into the program or saying that they're not eligible.
I share your concern, and I think that that's part of the, it does require agreement from the district attorney for the criteria, because we couldn't say, let's say a very serious case, oh, we're going to divert that, right? That's not something that we would have the choice to do. And so we would have to make sure that that law enforcement and the district attorney would be comfortable with who's being diverted, and also make sure that that criteria is objective, as you're describing, so that it's not, you know, based on, you know, an individual's opinion about what you know, who should have the opportunity for diversion.
Follow up on that. There's a judgment that's made at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So right at that moment, it's the office going to make a difference in effect whether they go into this program. There is some
Yeah, I mean, I
judgment.
think you're right. In every step of the way, there's going to be human beings that are going to be, you know,
good, too.
participating in that. But the way what we're seeing in, you know, we have strong champions in the Caminos program who are really, you know, they sit down in the meetings with the law enforcement officers. And one of the things that we did is we met with all the chiefs and the sheriffs from all the different organizations. So this is both coming in from kind of the law enforcement officers who are on the street, but also the bosses, right? And so our idea is to ensure that everybody has buy-in, you know, and so that to minimize the likelihood that somebody said, we're not going to give this opportunity to this young person. But I do think that part of the, you know, building that training and also having checks and balances will be part of that. If the staff who are working in those law enforcement agencies are, you know, if they're looking at the list of people who are arrested, or a list of people who are whose cases are being sent to the district attorney, and if they're seeing that they're not actually having the opportunity to try to divert those cases, then we would work with them to advocate to change that practice. So I think that, again, these are not outside agencies telling, you know, law enforcement, you're not doing your job. This is people who are actually going to be working in those offices, working with law enforcement in collaboration with them. And the law enforcement agencies are all very excited about this. They think this is the right thing to do. And they also recognize this is going to minimize the likelihood that these young people are going to be committing offenses in the future as adults.
Just to follow up one more thing, it does seem to me that this is going to have a very period of gaining understanding and acceptance in outside of education. Think about, stole my bike, got to put them in jail. You say to that person, no, actually, we've got this great diversion program and we're going to help that person with counseling stuff. And that angry person is not happy at that. So
Yeah.
it's gotta be
That's a
understood in
great
the
point.
community.
Yeah, and part of the program is restorative. So restorative, taking responsibility and accountability for their actions, and also if they've done harm, for them to recognize and also participate in restorative practices that may be more effective and impactful for those young people than just punishing them. And so, but I agree. I think that this is there could be folks who may see this as making it easy and not tough on crime. And, it's also, I think philosophically, we'll take the heat if we have to, but I do agree that I think the success of it too is really important, is for people to say, well, so you didn't, give them, time in jail or, juvenile hall or whatever, and that young person is less likely to do something else as a result of being a part of this program. And so I think it
Kids
is,
that
yeah.
benefit. But restorative adjustment is also a new thing that is not.
Right. And we recognize that, there's kind of pushback to some of that approach currently in the.
I think the issue is when there is repeat behavior, right? When there isn't change. And I feel like the purpose of this program is to prevent that, to have that change. First and foremost, I want to congratulate the Santa Cruz County COE, just because I'm looking at the state website and I think based on the list that I see here, we're the only unified school district or office education that actually received funds. I think that says a lot about us. I also did notice that the Santa Cruz County Health Services Agency also received a grant. We talked about potentially partnering with the community. Any possibility of or talks in partnering with them, or would it be different focus?
So no, so their focus is adults. It's 100% adults. And that's why when we started looking into the grant, and we reached out to folks to say, is anybody else applying to this? They said, yes, we are. And so we talked to them, and their focus is working with adults. So they're kind of complementary programs, but one for youth. But behavioral health definitely, who are the services agency is the one recipient. So we definitely partner with them when it comes to what we call specialty behavioral health services, so psychiatric services. And although both Compass and PVPSA now are getting into that, but they are definitely one of our partners. So if the young person is needing specialty care, we would.
I too, I'm so excited about this, because I think this is so important to start with. We can help them, excuse me, avoid going down the pathway of isn't very successful or doing a great thing. My question is, if a student is not within or not enrolled anywhere or within a private school, will they be able to come in?
Yeah, so this process begins with law enforcement. And so that's where, so it doesn't matter where they're going to school. Schools would be a partner in this process, but not in school, then in school or in a private school. For any young person, 12 to 17.
And are they at the table, not necessarily the students that aren't in school, But the private schools, are they aware of what we are doing?
So we just met with them yesterday and gave them a presentation. Wondering if our
Yes.
student trustees have any questions?
We're all talky over here.
So I have two just really quick questions. So one, you mentioned the 91% success rate in terms of repeat crimes. Is there a control figure for that of like people that haven't gone through the program, what that rate would be?
You know what? I don't have it, but I can get it. So because they track, they have young people and we have the numbers of students. It's generally speaking, it's about 50%. So it's very high. And so that is what we consider recidivism within 6 months. But I could get that number for youth because the students who are not listed here, they're still being tracked. And so we could get that number to see what that looks like. And I think that's a great way of looking at it. Whole group and an experiment.
And then one more thing, if somebody goes through the program and then they repeat another crime, are they eligible again for the program?
So that's a great question. So currently under the Caminos program, it's only for the first time offense. And so they don't allow for a person to do it the second time. But that's something that we're going to have to determine when working with our groups to determine if what the exact criteria is going to be implemented. And so it could be that depending on the seriousness of it or, but at this point, the Caminos program does not allow for folks who already have been convicted of a crime.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. Going off of that, so just trying to make sure that we have some room for folks who offended prior to the introduction of this program would probably be important. That they didn't have the opportunity to participate in this and, maybe did reoffend, and just keeping that in mind. And also I want to ask, so once it gets to the level of the district attorney, is there an opportunity for the district attorney to say, I think this is actually appropriate for the program? Would they be able to kick it back down and make it into the program, or is it just at the police level?
They do that. And that actually, in the Caminos program, the district attorneys sometimes does send it back for them. And in fairness as well, I'd like to share that the probation department is also working on their own diversion program that is for those once they already have been convicted and are sent to probation that they're trying to. But we think that we wouldn't call that diversion because that seems to go against the definition of it, but it's the same concept of trying to minimize their continuation in the justice system. Yeah, some other, yeah. Thank you for that. And you bring up an interesting point about getting an opportunity to participate in the program.
Those programs could be. Do you wish to speak?
Yeah.
Could you give your name
Marilyn
for our
Garrett.
minutes?
Marilyn Garrett.
But to identify that you're speaking to item 9.
Yes, just what you're discussing here. I was looking at this. I'm too shaky to write out.
Okay.
Okay. So it sounds good. It's a lot of money, but Edward, your questions too. Why are these people, why are these students arrested? What's the context? The part that was on the screen that made sense to me, it said focus on the community and poverty, something like that. What are the conditions that are causing these problems? And we live in a society where there's more and more poverty. I'm flashing back now to when you were on the school board in Tahoe Valley Schools, and I taught there in the 80s and 90s. And I made a home visit to this child's home. And he lived in a trailer, and it was very messy, and he was a difficult child in school, was missing school. And I thought, this poor kid, horrible poverty conditions. And there's more and more and more in the Poplar Valley, where I attend school board meetings these days. And some of these meetings I've attended, parents and students have complained about the security officer on campus singling out students of color and charging them with things. There was a lot of discontent. I have, based on a lot of facts, not a great deal of trust in the police agencies. The other thing I'm thinking of is just Tuesday, the Board of Supervisors meeting, maybe some of you followed that, had quite an item on community services and all these programs like Gray Bears, a multitude of programs that need to be supported financially, over 300 applications. And gee, there's not enough money. So it's like fighting over the crumbs of what's left after the military budget gets about half of our tax dollars that are going to kill people and destroy schools in Palestine, Lebanon, etc. And I'm just thinking there's going to be more and more discontent as people are desperate by the poverty, the lack of food, housing, and job opportunity. So I think that's the key. I'd like to see this money go into making a more viable society and providing for the well-being of students than all the police and the healthcare.
Thank you.
Those are my comments.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking. So this requires a vote on a resolution 24-42. And so Nick, if you would do a roll call vote.
I'll move the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going. It's so good it doesn't need a motion. Anyway, Bruce, you're the motion maker. Second by Rachel. So now, Nick, going forward with our students first.
Of course. Student trustee Hopkins. Student trustee Marcus.
Aye.
Trustee Estrada.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols. Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
Trustee Van Allen. Trustee Williams.
Yes.
President Roth.
Yes. So the motion passes for the resolution. Next, 9.2, approval of Santa Cruz County Office of Education Strategic Plan for 2025 through 2029. Dr. Slot.
Yes, so we, as presented to you, a draft of the plan at a previous meeting, and also I believe that we shared the plan with you via email. And so you have a printed copy of the draft for your approval in the blue folder. And this is not the official printout. This is just a current printout before we get it for you to review and approve it. I would like to walk you through the current plan, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. We have gotten a few small changes that we've received from you that we're going to continue to make. You'll see that the design includes our own students from our graduation on the front, and that the plan is from 2025 to 2029. Looking at our agenda, you'll see that there's a letter, there's an overview of our commitment to equity, and also some information about the Santa Cruz COE, and then our planning process and the details of what our strategic roadmap looks like.
Have to add one more trustee.
Yes, and so you'll notice that under the Board of Directors, we have student trustee, the wrong name of the student trustee, because when we gave this originally to our designer, it was before Ruben had joined us. And now, of course, we have Natalie who's joined us as well. And so we're going to be adding the names of our student trustees to this list. And there's a letter from myself in there. And then we start talking about this concept of building bridges to equity. Idea of, I think I'm not the only one, but if you look at our logo, which is behind you now, you'll see that there's a bridge in our logo, right? It's a bridge connecting things as well, connecting our youth and our children to our future. Also creating these pathways that lead to give opportunities for folks, and also the idea of connecting each other, different agencies, different people, different community members, parents, children, other guardians and support services. We start with our focus on early childhood education and talk about the need for availability of childcare in our community. We move into talk about student well-being and safety and school connectedness and other data that shows that there is a lot of work for us to do in terms of building those connections for our youth. Also, some information from our California Healthy Kids Survey. On page 5, moving on to page 6, we talk about attendance and school discipline and academic achievement. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that when we go over the dashboard in just a moment. And you'll see that when you look at that bar chart, it's quickly, you can see that different groups of students have very different levels of performance and success in our schools. And that we struggle with our students of color to be successful in our schools in many cases. Moving on to third grade math. So I think the first one is language arts, and then moving into page 7, we talk about third grade math, as well as 8th grade and 11th grade math and high school graduation. And then we talk about the importance of biliteracy in our county. And then is where we start on the next page. We talk about building bridges and the different aspects of belonging, relationships, innovation, data, growth, excellence, and sustainability. And that's the acronym bridge, where the acronym bridges come from. Multi-leveled connection to bridges. And then we talk about about the Santa Cruz County Office of Education, our mission, our core values, our vision, the different roles we play, and they're similar to the roles of before. So I'm now on page 9, fostering collaboration and systems improvement, providing support and oversight for educational partners, and providing services and support for learners, families, and communities. So the idea is that we bring people together, we provide support for those who are supporting others, and then we provide direct services as well. 3 different roles. And then we talk about some of the strengths, challenges, opportunities, and big issues. Included in there is the political landscape, which has created a great deal of uncertainty. And then in our strategic roadmap, we prioritize support, safety, and wellness. We empower equitable achievement and build sustainable systems. Those are the 3 priority areas that we've identified. And so for the first one, creating safety and wellness, to create the conditions that foster safety, inclusion, belonging, joy, and well-being for all learners. And I'm looking at the middle of page 11. And under priority number 2, ensuring all learners have the opportunities, skills, and supports they need to be engaged and successful in their education careers and their communities. And finally, with building sustainable systems to co-create and sustain an educational system that is cohesive, effective, and equitable. And then we break down each of those priority areas and talk about how those connect to the roles we play. So how does supporting safety and wellness relate to our role, our three roles. And so we talk about that on page 12 and 13. And then when we move into page 14, we talk about priority number 2 and how priority 2 applies to, when you look at the different strategies that we've identified that are going to be guiding our work for the next. And that goes on to page 15. And then our last priority was sustainability, also broken down by the different 16. And then we talk about our plan forward and some endnotes. So I'd love to open it up for any comments and questions.
Edward.
Yeah, I had a quick question page number 7 at the bottom, the seal of biliteracy. I was a bit confused about the bar chart. 88% white, but 59% Hispanic or Latina.
The,
I had a similar question.
the paragraph above it referenced 36%. So I think there might be an error there.
Okay,
36 versus
Be
88.
36%.
got it.
Yes, thank you for that.
I was a bit confused. I was wondering if I was reading it wrong.
Bruce.
Well, made a comment last meeting about, being careful about avoiding cliches and
Yes.
bureaucratic euphemisms. And I think you did a good job. I think it's real and meaningful, although anything in this field and at this level of abstraction could be ripped apart by somebody with a attitude towards it. But there's another aspect of this that I want to acknowledge, which is that, and it really comes across in the goal, first priority support, safety, and wellness. And I want to acknowledge that this is actually a really huge change in, and not that it started today or this week or with this strategic plan, but it's ongoing of really altering the culture of education in a really fundamental way. And I, as a man in our society, grew up with a very different approach being imposed on me, which was based on punishment and being tough. That is, none of this stuff about feelings and,
Belonging.
belonging and all that kind of stuff. It was all, well, if you're having a hard time, toughen up, buck up, Bruce, don't let it get to you. And I have struggled against that kind of narrow picture of masculinity and of being a human being all my life, because it's really oppressive and really narrowing of what somebody can be about in their own personal life and with their community. So the fact that we're now doing this in the school right at a moment when our national picture is really trying to reinforce the opposite view, at the national level right now, the election, I think this is really important that we be totally forthright, out front, and declarative about what we're doing here, because this is a big change. You don't get big change unless people know it, work on it. So anyway, I just from that standpoint, really appreciate here. Now I do have a couple detail-y things. In the Healthy Kids survey, how many were surveyed? Do we know that? Was that like, is it hundreds or thousands? Or?
Hundreds. It depends on which question. So the
Those are
deeper you
administered
go,
at each.
correct. And schools can decide not to include certain parts of the survey, so it could vary. So there are certain questions that are only, but I would say that generally speaking, then we only would look at it if there was a statistical. And usually it's over 100 respondents per.
Well, one thing I really like about this plan is that in each of your sections, the priority sections, you have the key indicators of progress. And for me, as someone who deals in data all the time, what that means is measurables, right? So what I'm hoping is that over the course of implementing the strategic plan, we get reports that look at what's our progress on these, including if there isn't any progress, because we need to know that as well as being happy when there is progress. So what I'm hoping for is something that turns this set of indicators into kind of an
Mhm.
dashboard of how. So that's that anyway.
I appreciate
Probably
that.
cover
And,
that.
and I did want to share that there's another layer here, which is not part of the strategic plan, which every department had to put together a list of actions related to those strategies that align their work to that. And so, and each of those also have measurable outcomes. So even at a smaller level, let's say training in for the safety component, training schools in the new protocol for safety that we have, they are able to measure a percentage of which schools have been trained annually in that. So each of those is in there. And I was hoping to make a comment, and I also want to make sure students get a chance to ask. That when it comes to this concept of wellness, you know, even before the pandemic, we were recognizing that our schools have to be places where we not only focus on learning in the career and college and career goals. And after the pandemic, you know, with staggering amount of behavioral health needs that our young people are showing, we recognize that we, you know, those pieces of belonging and safety and allowing students to bring their whole selves to school is as important as the outcomes.
Edward?
Yeah, I wanted to, talk about the key indicators of progress, really highlighting the family engagement levels and school attendance, chronic absenteeism. And I also want to speak to the public comment, you know, that about poverty and its effects on students. You know, I was a student living in poverty, living in a trailer home, you know, and the effects of that, and speaking also about our change away from punitive punishments on that. I remember being afraid of school officials and my chronic absenteeism, you know, and the effects of that affecting our benefits, of affecting the meager $500 a month we were getting to live off of. So it was, you know, I love the work that the COE is doing to address chronic absenteeism in a discussion with families, talking about poverty, talking about what families need. I think that the work that we're doing is really good. I love that that's in key indicators of progress. I think we're doing a great job. You know, just wanted to kind of speak to that. We're doing great work. It's really good to see this in here. Supporting safety and wellness definitely starts, you know, at home when students, you know, can be in a situation where they thrive, that their families are thriving. So kind of wanted to speak to that.
Just to add on to that, I think you're right. I'm really proud that a significant part of the plan is the health and wellness of our students. It's staggering still to see the numbers of students who are experiencing sadness, hopelessness, thoughts of self-harm, and these numbers are still too high. And the reality is that our students can't learn and thrive if they're feeling these things. But I'm also very hopeful because some of the numbers show that they feel like that there is caring people that they can reach out to in school or outside. So hopefully we can, you know, increase that number and decrease the other. And I wanted to ask a question. I'm not sure of the discussion of sort of the language used, but there was, when we're talking about non-binary students, when we're referring to how they identify, I noticed that a couple of times it was a term used, non-binary or something else. And that kind of affected me a little negatively, like we were talking about a thing versus a person. So just to kind of throw it out there, maybe we're, you know, another phrase could be, you know, or other self-identifying or other non-conforming individuals, so that it's more of a personable. So I don't know if that was a discussion, and I maybe, you know, have missed that conversation that happened at the staff level. So just thought
On that, but you may have more, but I read that and I went, what? Because it says non-binary or something else, and then it says or male or female. So if the or male or female had come before the or something else, it would have made a little more sense, although I think the order is actually important to acknowledge all the or something else. So
I think you
I
make a
think we
great
need a
point,
different
yeah.
phrase. Yeah.
We'll work on
And
that.
not thing, not something.
For pointing that out.
And I'm really excited to see going back to a lot of the positives, I'm really happy to see that despite, coming out of a pandemic, we're still seeing graduation rates going high. It's on an upward, not so much going down or plateauing. So that's also very nice to see. I think overall, I think it's a lot of great work that the COE has done, the staff. Feels very optimistic. It feels like there is a clear purpose. There's a commitment to collaboration with, our community and our partners and staff and parents, and a real focus on equity amongst our students, which is something incredibly important to bring our community together. And I'm just very proud of the work that everyone has done. See the progress. Like a fellow trustee here said, I'd love to see those goals, and maybe I know a lot of our typical goals will have a quantitative, like we want to raise, participation in after school programs by the 60%. And so for me, it's numbers, it's rather than seeing just kind of the qualitative. We've improved, but I figured that was probably in the weeds. Like you said, like that is behind the scenes, and I'm happy to hear that that's already considered.
And I think that, with your support, with the board support, we would want to identify some key performance indicators, some really, because there would be hundreds of things that we would be able to look at, but what we would identify ones that we want to be are connected to a variety of different. And I do think that, as you mentioned equity, in my mind, and I just spoke to the folks that are working on their administrative credential. Tier 2 program who are working on clearing their credential. And in my mind, what I shared with them is that equity is really about us taking not only for providing access in the results, to say that if our students have very high numbers of chronic absenteeism, like a third of our students are, that's on us. We have to figure out how to reach our community. And that, I think, I'm hoping that is right here, that this is really about us making a commitment and wanting to commit to, or really embracing our responsibility to change the success of our, see ourselves as partners with our community, with our students.
Sandra. Yes.
Well, I love this brochure you've presented for us, and I can't wait to be in an atmosphere where I can actually read every word. But my eyes have focused on some very important words to me, because let's say on page 15, I'm just glancing at key indicators of progress, and one of them is multilingual student data. And behind that, in parentheses, it says English learner reclassification and state seal of biliteracy. I talked with a number of staff members here and maybe some trustees about instituting the seal of biliteracy. And I was very involved with doing that in Pajaro. And I don't think we're going to, I'd like us to be infected with the germ of loving bilingualism, because it just opens so many more doors with what you can do with your jobs. Being a bilingual person myself, I don't claim to be perfectly bilingual, and I don't claim to speak and understand Spanish perfectly. But I do I do embrace the concept of bilingualism, and my two grandchildren are both in the bilingual dual language immersion program at De La Vega School. Remember when I had when I announced here at the board meeting that I was getting a grandchild? I got two. They aren't twins. They're darling children. And the girl is now 10, and she speaks in Spanish sentences if she wants to. She loves it. I embrace that concept. And I don't know who I approached about the seal of bilingualism, and whether the county office should embrace that and get it out there for people. People should know about that. And now I'll give you a little short story about, it was graduation day at Watsonville High School. And for some reason, I was walking in the streets of Watsonville, and the children were coming out of the school with their diplomas. They had their program, their graduation, and three girls were walking along, and I said, did you know about the seal of biliteracy? And they said they knew about that. And I said, are you one of the hardworking people to get that? And she said she got it. And I said, I want to see it on your diploma, because she had her diploma right there. And I said, I just want to see what it looks like on the diploma. And congratulations, you're going to have a good time with that when you start looking for work, because if you speak in two languages, you get the job. Unless there are other bilingual candidates, you've got a big skill that can't be easily acquired. I mean, you've got to take at least 5 years. Imagine now if we were done in a program of something that sounds so different, like, for example, Asian languages. It would be a great deal more difficult to acquire a second. Congratulations to all the bilingual people.
Thank you for your part.
Well, I got a lot of no's. Got a lot of.
Yes, but it's now
doesn't
on
matter.
diplomas. It's a big deal. I remember when it came in.
It's cool. Been meeting in San
Okay,
Jose.
I do have a question. Both are new, and this is being incorporated. Would it be more helpful to you ask questions, or to hear the questions of the board? And then if it hasn't been answered or brought up, would that, which way?
I think it helps to hear the questions of the board first.
Just don't want you lost, when. I'm the same way. I'd rather listen to all. Or have new. So, I would just like to pass this over to both of you. But I know I suffer a lot from not being bilingual, and especially here on this board where we represent a lot of Spanish speaking people. And when I have had to go and speak, I because I do French, Spanish. So I think it's very, very important. And Also, I'm going to pass it over to the students.
So I had one thought. So I really like the optimism of it. I agree that's a really good like framework. And one thing I specifically resonated with was the growth mindset. Like I think that's a super important way of teaching, a super important mission of education. And I also really appreciate the key indicators of progress. So I'm wondering if there's any specific key indicators of progress that could measure a growth mindset, potentially like surveys measuring motivation or career or future prospects of students.
I think it's a great question. I think that when it comes to, I think it would be difficult to measure kind of whether somebody has a growth mindset. Is that what your question is? How would we measure I think that what we use a lot for example, the California Healthy Kids Survey is we look at indicators that are correlated with measures of success. And so Trustee Williams mentioned that if somebody has a connection with an adult on campus, that one is in research has found a high correlation with success as measured by graduation, college grades, going to college, and so on. Generally, if you want something like when they do research about growth mindset, those are usually more qualitative type studies where it's more of a kind of having conversations and really kind of diving deep into trying to understand kind of the mindset of optimism and, what is your view of the future? Tell me about what your plans are. And so, and qualitative, information is useful, but it's harder also to put together and use it in a report like this. We usually rely on kind of quicker quantitative measures. But I do think, though, that the idea of the importance of the growth mindset and having that adaptability, that idea that we're always learning, we're always learners, we're always is such an important part of what we believe is one of those necessary kind of components of success in school and approach that everybody, parents, staff, need to have that mindset so that we don't limit ourselves by thinking that we're stuck. We have a static approach.
Yeah.
I just want to say, somebody
Put your microphones on so I can.
someone who has struggled with mental health in the past, it's really exciting for me to see this on here. And I just really appreciate that it's being looked at as a very important thing in education. Yeah. I think that's it.
Very much.
Okay. Any further comment?
President Roth, I believe we're going to have a public comment, but if I may make one brief comment before, I wanted to highlight to the board something that that I'm very proud of, and I think the board may already know, but may is not necessarily typical for these reports, which is that every photo in this report is of a Santa Cruz County student and of a COE program. There is no stock art in this entire report. Most of these photos were taken by Reynaldo Barrios, our talented digital media producer, or some of our other staff. So we're very proud of that.
Nick.
Wish to make about the strategic plan, about our strategic plan.
Yes, it sounds good, and equity, of course, we want to have. The realistic question is, how do you have that in a society that is so inequitable and the poverty growing? I'm thinking back to Tuesday's Board of Supervisors meeting, and you referred to childcare and how important that is. That's part of what's being slashed in the budget. All these services that support some semblance of equity, though it isn't a child growing up in poverty and one growing up in a household where they're fairly well off. How do you make that equitable? Did you know that Franklin Delano Roosevelt had an economic Bill of Rights? We think of the other Bill of Rights with the First Amendment. I should bring it and read it, but it had to do the right to education, the right to health care, the right to a decent job that would support a family, the right to a healthy environment. It was a whole list. But the economic interests of the time didn't allow for this economic Bill of Rights to pass. So we are in a situation, the staff person at the Board of Supervisors who did the presentation on the community funding, he referred to it looking like things were, was his word, like going into chaos. Things were getting so bad, and that we needed to look at the structure of the society that's causing these problems. And I think that is absolutely essential. And keep talking about safety, and I think of this wireless microwave radiation. It's like being in a microwave oven. How do you expect people to thrive and be healthy in a microwave oven that is known to cause so many adverse effects? Students your age did some interesting experiments. They fed some plants water that had been microwaved, and they fed plants other water that hadn't been microwaved. The plants with the microwaved water died. That was an interesting student experiment in like biology class. Another one was they took samples of student blood before and after exposure to
Thank you very
microwave
much.
radiation. The blood clumped when exposed.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's great to be back, and I'll see you next month as well, I think. I'm Greg Larson, trustee-elect for Trustee Area 3, and I just wanted to speak briefly to this item. As Superintendent Dr. Saban knows, since retiring as town manager of Los Gatos over the last 9 years, I've worked with about 25 cities and special districts to develop their own strategic plans. So I read this one with great interest about, gee, how does it match to the ones I've done? And my clients have ranged from East Palo Alto with 7 years of work to Roseville for 5 years. So I've done a fair amount in this space. And I love the document. I love the graphics. I was particularly impressed with what's going to be this 3x3 matrix of the priorities and the roles, and just creating a real tangible tool to track progress and what we all are going to be doing collectively. Most important for all the work I've done, and I was so pleased to see it addressed here at the end, is the next steps and the follow-up. How do you keep a strategic plan from just being a beautiful document that everybody forgets? And it's that annual coming back to it, seeing the data, seeing the priorities and strategies to implement it. So I just wanted to say kudos, and I look forward to working on this over the next 4 years. So,
Next month.
yeah.
So are we ready to present a motion?
Second,
Well,
resolution 20,
Or,
oh, no, actually, it doesn't have a number.
nope.
We're just approving the item.
so the motion maker, Rachel, and there's a second. Since this is a resolution, it's called for a roll call vote. So Nick, if you would do that.
Of course. Student trustee Hopkins. Student trustee Marcus.
Aye.
Trustee Estrada.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols. Trustee Sanchez.
Yes.
Trustee Van Allen. Trustee Williams.
Yes.
President Roth.
The motion passes, and thank you and all your staff and whoever else helped you. Great, very nice, and it's easy to do, especially with the everything's good. The superintendent's report. Oh, I missed special education. I'm not with it. Okay, so moving on to 9.3, Resolution 2443, recognizing Special Education Day.
Yes, thank you. So December 2nd is National Special Education Day. And, when we think about equity, diversity, and inclusion in many ways, it's not always, but one of the components of inclusion is ensuring that our community of students and adults with disabilities are offered the same opportunities to belong and participate and succeed in our schools and in our community. And so a growing number of students in our schools qualify for special education, meaning that they have an individualized educational plan. And it is our responsibility to provide a free and public education that is appropriate and that is the least restrictive possible. And so we work hard to be able to provide for the needs of our students and to help them be successful in our programs. We're very proud of our students in our own special education program. You've been to our graduations and you've seen how amazing they are and how what a joy it is to be able to serve them and help them in their processes to become successful and for plans beyond our schooling system. And so we hope that you will consider this resolution to honor our students and to really uplift them.
Bruce.
Well, I'd like to make the motion and the provision of special education it's touched my life in a couple different ways. And it's got to be, along with alternative ed, the thing that caught my attention first about how good this kind of goes back, I don't know, 25 years or something, but how seriously this office is. Anyway, I strongly recommend that the support this, and I'd like to move resolution 24-43, recognize special education.
Is there a second?
I'll second. But also, were there any students? Do you have any comments or questions?
Made the motion to get the discussion going.
Yeah. Any comment by the board?
I don't have any specific comments, but I think special education is one of the big positives of our community. And I think it's worth recognizing it as a day.
I would just like to say this law went into effect in 1972, and today I feel it is going to be an area which we're going. I think about there's several other areas also, but I think special. We have done a good job here, and we continue since this again is a resolution.
President Roth, I believe Ms. Garrett would like to
Oh,
make
sorry.
a comment
I
before
am
the board
sorry.
takes action on this item.
Thank you, Nick.
Ms. Garrett, did you wish to make a public comment on this item?
Yeah. Oh, maybe you got a balance there.
Please go ahead.
This is a fine resolution. What I think we need to look at is what are some of the causes of disabilities that have been increasing over the years. In the Pajaro Valley, we have the toxic pesticide exposure. I'm thinking of a child who was in my class whose vision was horrific, and the methyl bromide toxicological profile said damages lungs, eyes, kidneys, skin, known to cause reproductive harm. How do we remove various toxic exposures? When I was teaching, I didn't see autism in the class. Now, what is it, 1 in 30? I don't know. It's huge. Part of the cause of autism is vaccines. And there's a book out by Leon Canarod called The Unfortunate Truth About Vaccines, Exposing the Vaccine Orthodoxy. Leon worked as a school psychologist in Head Start and upper levels of education. In the 1990s, and I think you should have a presentation by him, he started seeing in the children what he had never seen before, was cases of autism. And he and others started doing some research. When did this occur? What was happening? And it had to do with the increase in vaccines that children were getting. In the United States, children get many more vaccines than in other countries. Another book, and it's well documented, is called Muzzled Truth. And it's how the CDC rejected COVID treatments and vaccine health risk warnings by Ron Owens, who worked with the California Department of Public Health. And that's another book that shows the cover-up of the harm that was being done from these shots. A very recent book is Naomi Wolf's book, The Pfizer Papers. Pfizer wanted to hide for 75 years their records of tests with these vaccines. Fortunately, there was a court hearing that said, no, you have to release these documents, thousands and thousands of pages showing they knew the harm and they
Thank
covered
you.
it up and proceeded.
Thank you. Okay, back to a roll call vote.
Student trustee Hopkins,
Aye.
student trustee Marcus,
Aye.
trustee Estrada,
Yes.
trustee Nichols,
Yes.
trustee Sanchez,
Yes.
trustee Van Allen, trustee Williams, President Roth.
Yes. Thank you. The motion passes. Now to the report.
I feel like I am been speaking a lot. This is the most I've spoken to this board ever, I think. 3 back-to-back reports to you. Well, this one gives me great joy to provide this report. This is a photo from the Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day that took place last week at PV High School. I got to join with Ms. Brooker, who's in the front to the right there, and hundreds of students, or maybe dozens, I should say, of students and parents and staff that joined us. And this was not the only event that took place. It also occurred not only at PV High School, but at Soquel High School, at Santa Cruz High School, and also at Soquel, I think New Brighton, also had an event as well. And I want to give a huge shout out to Andres Ortiz, who is our Student Leadership and Engagement Coordinator, who happens to be in the audience today. He worked with the different school sites and the Black student unions at many of the three high schools to promote this site and help them get connected with the foundation that provides all the cool stuff that you see there. We're wearing, all kinds of waving flags and banners and the students were absolutely so engaged. And if I'm sure you know the story. Ruby Bridges in 1960 was one of the first children to walk to school, surrounded by U.S. Marshals to desegregate a school in Louisiana when she was 6 years old. And she is still alive and still represents such an icon of civil rights. And for students to be so engaged and excited about this just brought so much joy to me, and we needed it right now more than ever. To have all that positivity and optimism and excitement, and also recognizing that 6-year-old girl changed the world, and these young people are going to continue to change the world and make it better than it is right now.
Still alive.
She is. She
Yes.
is.
Look at the way they've taken the picture of the little girl holding, I don't know what she's holding in her hand, but if you see the word walk, that
Yes,
child
you
is
can't really see it
represented
very
the A,
well.
But that's,
Yes, let me,
that's how
that is,
bridges. School.
that is kind of the symbol. I'm gonna go ahead and make it a little bigger for you to see. That is an icon for the Walk to School Day. That is Ruby Bridges as a kind of and she's holding a book. And in the picture, which I'm sure I could find for you, the famous picture is she's surrounded by U.S. Marshals, and there's mobs of people who are, hurling insults at her, and she's courageously took those little steps into school.
The children that were called, their parents refused to put them in Ruby Bridges class.
Right.
Ruby Bridges assigned to, and a very, very small group of white students wanted to see Ruby Bridges and get to know her. And
Right.
so they started infiltrating. I
A
don't know
great
where I
story,
read
isn't
this.
it? Yeah, it's a wonderful story.
Read a lot about Ruby Bridges.
And then students spoke, Maximiliano, who's in the front right there, he spoke at PV High School. And in his speech, he talked about that what inspired him to join the BSU at PV High School with Miss Brooker's class was his anger at hearing the N-word being used so much. And he joined the Black Student Union because he wanted to be a part of eliminating that from his school. And it was really an inspiring event. You'll see also Dr. Heather Contreras in that picture, and both those students, Ixtel and Maximiliano, who are in the front holding the banner, were 2 students in our Student Trustee Academy this summer. And so it was great to see them there. So wonderful event. You probably are well aware of the letter that we worked with our county partners, and the press conference that took place in support of our immigrant community and our LGBTQ community as well. We're working with our partners in anticipation of potential action that may impact our communities here, thinking about different possibilities. We also recognize that the action that could manifest itself locally is going to be accompanied by a great deal of fear, as it is right now from our community, and paralyzing fear that we saw in 2016 when families did not send their children to school. They did not go to the doctor. They did not want to access services. They were afraid that this was going to impact their ability to secure status in this country. And we recognize the schools are an important part of being safe places for our families, and we want to make sure that stays that way. And so we're working with our partners. Community Action Board is really taking the lead. Yesterday, I met with Assembly Member Rivas's office and other partners to talk about things we can do proactively to support our community, continue to stand up and uplift and protect our community to the best of our abilities. Want to share some election results. Several of our bonds, school bonds, look like they're passing at this point. Fingers crossed, and I don't want to jinx anything. Bonnie Doon, PVSD, Scotts Valley, and Soquel all are currently passing. There are still some votes that are coming in, so and Live Oak is pretty much guaranteed not to pass. Point. And so, for those four, it is good news. And then the state bond also passed. And so, overall, good news and always wanting good facilities and for our students. I did want to talk to you a little bit about Senate Bill 823, which is a part of the governor's effort to realign the justice system. And realignment really is about getting rid of state-based institutions and really putting the onus on counties and local communities to provide kind of the justice, incarceration in some cases, and as well as support and services and treatment. And this is important because even though we have a very small number of young people who are in DJJ placements, we have actually two right now, I think, but I think we recently had 4, so it's a relatively small number. The fact that they're going to be receiving services here in Santa Cruz County, which means that the probation department is responsible for creating a secure youth treatment facility, and they've applied with the state to make that in our juvenile hall, which means that these young people who have the most serious and violent offenses, who normally have been sent away to other locations very far away from their families, are now going to be here in our community, in our juvenile hall, and we'll be able to, and we're responsible for providing them education and services. And so we're partnering with the probation office and as well as other, but there is some controversy in terms of what that's going to look like and how those programs are going to be put in place. And so there's a lot of discussion. We're listening to a lot of different community partners about what is the best way to support these young people who are going to be in facilities and in locked facilities for a long time. I'd wanted to share with you that we continue our efforts to talk to share, bring awareness about fentanyl in our community, and we are today. I heard from the sheriff's office that there has been a reduction this year in the number of overdoses and deaths compared to last year, and that's really comforting to hear that things are getting better. We've done 2 more film screenings of Fentanyl High, which is a movie by Kyle Santoro. And one at Scotts Valley High School and one at Aptos High School last night. And that's, we continue to partner with SafeRx and many other partners we table at different events. We have our TUPE, which is our tobacco use and program, which is also with a focus on vaping and as well as fentanyl. There are kinds of risks that exist in our community. We're partnering with the Watsonville Film Festival, Pajaro Valley Prevention and Student Assistance, and working with a group of youth who are going to be developing their own film locally. And so we're excited about that. We've been working on addressing hate in our schools. As I mentioned earlier, the N-word and other kinds of hate seem to have increased significantly this year. And schools are doing a lot of great work, doing presentations classroom to classroom, as well as trainings for staff. We are looking to develop a bystander training that we're going to be developing in partnership with our school districts, and to be able to provide presentations and also maybe engage young people to help co-present with us. Just again, to bring more awareness to the harm that's being done and the need to be able to create a culture of respect in our classrooms. I did want to share with you that a young person, Mason, I believe is the young person's name, presented at San Lorenzo Valley Unified School District. He is a member from our Youth for Environmental Action, and he presented a survey of the perceptions of students when it comes to the environment and how well the schools were doing and how optimistic they were for the future, and to the San Lorenzo Valley Unified School District Board. And I was wondering if you would consider, and maybe we could put this on agenda committee, having a countywide presentation of the data for the whole county, because it's really an impressive work that the students do. They gather data every year and they're tracking what systems are being put in place across the county, how students feel about them, and so possibly if that would be something that the agenda committee would consider, I think the students would love to come here. And what they are seeing is that the implementation of these sustainable systems are actually affecting students' optimism for the future about sustainability. The fact that they're seeing these things in place is actually making them more optimistic and more likely to participate. So we see this as something that we think young people being the champions of that would be wonderful. So possibly something you'd like to consider. Also, just wanted to share that the differentiated assistance is something that the County Office of Education is responsible for supporting school districts that are not performing well on a variety of different measures. And every year, a new list of districts are identified for differentiated assistance, and we provide support to those school districts. And we'll soon be receiving, I think we were supposed to receive it before today, but I think we're getting that notification tomorrow of which school districts are receiving that. So we would be able to report to you the services that we're going to be offering to those districts. And of course, you may know that I am the co-captain of the Holiday Food and Fun Drive this year. And so we would love your support to get the word out about Second Harvest Food Bank. Over 65,000 people use the food bank every month. And food insecurity is growing in our community and especially among young people. And so it is something that we feel strongly about. We have our own campaign, and we'd love it for you to support the campaign, but also share it with your friends and neighbors, and you can add it to your signature. You can add that QR code, and so that people can donate when. And just some upcoming events. We're having a computer science playground at Watsonville High School and at the mall, where young people and adults get to play with everything computer science, from coding to robots to just it's a really fun event to promote the computer science. And so it'd be great if you could join us. And you should have received an invitation to the January budget workshop by Capital Advisors. It should be an interesting time. We're hearing that though the budget is looking pretty good and incoming taxes are looking pretty good, that the COLAs are actually going to be less than anticipated. So it's interesting. So hopefully by then we'll have more information, and we'll have the governor's preliminary budget at that point. And then you are aware that as a result of a requirement, you're required to participate in an ethics training by school and college. You don't have to participate in this training specifically, but you do have to participate in an official ethics training. We're offering it in person on February 18th, that you're able to participate. We're hoping you're already signed up for that. And then lots of new events that we'll be telling you about that will be occurring in the winter and spring: Poetry Out Loud, Spelling Bee, STEAM Expo, and a variety of other exciting activities. You know how busy it gets. Lots of events for you to partake. I wanted to share with you that the California dashboards are up, and this is the system that California has developed to tell us how well schools are doing in a variety of different areas specifically. And so they use these gauges, that from red to blue in a variety of different areas. And I know that's hard to see on the screen, but you'll see that chronic absenteeism, which is when students miss 10% or more of their schooling, is one measure. Suspensions, English language learner progress, graduation rates, college and career readiness, and then how they perform on the CASP tests, which are the state assessments in language arts and math. And so you'll see that, for example, in this case, the chronic absenteeism is yellow, suspension rate is orange. It says orange here. English language is orange, graduation rate is green. This is for PVUSD. College and career readiness is orange, and then their performance on the, are in the red for. And so when you look at this, they're looking for two things. They're looking at how well schools are doing and you could look at it for individual districts, for the whole district or for individual schools. You could, and what they look at is if you are kind of doing well or not so well compared to other districts, but they also look at whether you've grown or have you improved or decreased in that area. And so if you get red, it means you're not doing well overall, and it means that you've decreased. And so it's a combination both of a kind of an objective number and also a relative number to how well you've done in the past. And so a couple of changes this year, they've added the long-term English learners category, which is, this is another student group that they've added. And that's for students who've been, who have not obtained English language proficiency for 7 years. So they've been in our system for at least 7 years and they're still language learners. They've added the science academic performance indicator, which is based on the CAS test or the CAA test for 5th, 8th, and high school. And then also college and career readiness has a color rating now. Overall, chronic absenteeism has decreased significantly across the county. We've seen big drops in most districts. And looking at, for example, PVUSD dropped almost, I think 18% in their chronic absenteeism. And so students are coming back to school. This is the first time we're seeing that improvement since the pandemic. And so this is something that is definitely good news. Academic performance overall is continuing to look low. And for many of our districts, we did not see, they were either flat or dropped. And then as a result of adding the long-term English learner performance as a new student group, it's going to qualify many of the districts for differentiated assistance, only here, but across the state. And so if you want to go to the website on your own time, it's californiaschooldashboard.org, and you can type in the name of any school or district and click on it. And I encourage you to spend some time discovering your own kind of checking it out. It was just released today, so this is very fresh news. And you'll probably be hearing, we'll be probably sharing some information about this with our community. And I'm sure the districts will also be wanting to celebrate some things and maybe identify some areas of growth. And that is it for my report. I'll open it up for any questions.
Actually, a question. Going back to one of your first about sort of the environment that some of our students will be living in, maybe absences because some of the fears that they might have. And so my question is how are we preparing or training school officials to address if someone to come onto their campus, ask them questions, or to communicate to students who might have those fears, what resources are available? And I bring this up because my daughter has had friends come to her and they've just had conversations and they have fear because maybe it isn't, documented, but they are here legally and they're really a separation. So I basically passed on, information from CAB, as far as the resource that I feel like frontline people, staff, and teachers.
Well, I appreciate the question. So one of the things that we wanted to assure folks is most of the school districts, I believe all of them, but we'll have to verify, we have it as well, is that there is a board policy that restricts our ability to, one, collect immigration status, and two, also with immigration enforcement. So that is something that we're talking about in the superintendent's council about what would we do if let's say somebody were to come onto the campus, pull student out, for example. So I think that's something we're working on, and I'll be happy to share more about, develop them. In addition, one of the things that we are working on with CAB support, and Anya Rodino, who is the person that created the emergency plans for families years ago, is to also bring awareness to families as what things that they can do to prepare if enforcement were to take place. And in many cases, and most of our students do have, were born in the U.S. and it's their parents that don't have their status that is at risk. And so the idea of them being separated is mortifying to, as you can imagine, to anybody. And so working with families to be able to plan, and also for them to know the rights, and also looking at what kind of advocacy we could do in California. And this is not something we're only worried about here. It's something that Assemblyman Rivas, the governor, and lots of folks are trying. What are the kinds of things that we could realistically do if, you know, if the rhetoric of incoming.
Thank you for co-chairing the Second Harvest Food Bank. It's been something that I think it holds near and dear to a lot of us, and I've been participating, volunteering, and doing things for like the last 25 years, so thank you. And I would challenge our trustees, you know, it'd be great if we could say that we are 100% participants in the program, even if it's $1, because they can make $1 go a long way. So I challenge our trustees to all participate. And my last question and kind of comment is for our student trustees. I've seen Fentanyl High, and I think it's in a very impactful film, and it's something that we've been trying. And I'm curious, have you heard about it? Have you seen it? And if so, how do you think that affects the students who maybe have seen it? And does it need to be seen more or shown in school? I'm just curious to hear more from you.
So I haven't personally seen it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I definitely want to see it. It seems like it's a very impactful movie. Fentanyl seems like a big problem in our community. So I think we could like work on efforts to just have more schools showing the movie. I think it'd be very effective.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of say the same thing. I saw like the first 15 minutes of it last night at Aptos High, and just like the beginning was very impactful. And I personally know somebody who has overdosed on fentanyl, so I think that more schools definitely should be showing it. I mean, if it's possible, like every school should be shown.
Is there a cost to the student?
No. So there is no cost, but Kyle Santoro does reserve the right to get permission every time to screen it, but he's been very supportive. He's away in college at this point, East Coast. But so there is a process that we go through to make sure to register folks and keep creative control over the process. But again, he's been very supportive, and we are seeing a lot more schools that are.
I think that's a great idea, especially if we could start with middle school. Okay, any other questions of Dr. Spa? Okay, student trustee reports?
I don't have any, but I'm excited to attend the upcoming events and just looking forward to be more involved in the community.
So your question, you just did. Really agree with that.
Yeah, I want to just touch on the Ruby Bridges Walk to School. speaking on behalf of students, it seemed like a very engaging event. Like students were really excited about it. I know SoCal, the school I go to, is a really big hit. And also SoCal had this Kindness Week recently, which is a similar like uplifting, motivating initiative. And it seems like in general, student response on these like these supportive, engaging initiatives is generally positive. And they seem like effective ways of promoting the COE's mission of belonging and inclusion.
Sandra, any report of your last, you need to come in December, but this is your last full meeting.
We'll be talking about that.
Yeah, we're going to change it to the, most likely to the 8th.
Well, I don't really have a full report today. I'm trying to keep healthy. I'm trying to get exercise every day by setting off in the morning at 8:30 for a 2-hour walk. And I do a lot of thinking in the process, and that would be the only thing I think of to add to my report. I'm very busy going to doctors too. I told you all last time that I had so many doctor appointments on my list, but I'm getting ready to not take any medicine anymore on December 2nd. I'm so excited. It says stop, and I'm not going to say the name of the medicine, but I've been taking it I will have been taking it for. It's good. It's happy medicine. Yeah.
Edward.
I attended the press conference that we had. It was great to see so many representatives from different community partners, agencies in the county. It's going to be important for us to protect our students and their well-being and their families as we go into the next 4 years. You know, particularly immigrant and LGBT students, and we have already seen the U.S. Congress restricting access to restrooms based on biological sex. And so the threat of that is very, very serious. And the fact that ultimately what a lot of legislators want is genital checks for students, you know? So that's the enforcement mechanism that would ensure that only biological sexes are able to access certain restrooms. So it's a very scary time for a lot of LGBT folks. But also very inspiring that we have the first transgender, openly transgender member of Congress, and which spurred the change in rules, which I know will not only affect her, but will also affect lots of transgender staff at the Capitol. So lots of work we must do.
I do like her response.
Yeah.
Sorry that she had to do that.
Yeah.
But
Which I will also uplift some other transgender voices who have said, you know, opposing opinions on what she has said, that some say that she has just capitulated to Republican extremists. And that there are, I also want to uplift that there are many transgender staff members in the US Capitol that will also be affected by that, because it's not just legislators, it's staff members and visitors to the Capitol, which includes students, transgender students who might be visiting, who will be affected by that. So.
Bruce.
I also attended the press conference on immigration status, and it was very important to me that education was so well represented there. And of course, Ferris gave he turned it up to 11, which is good in his speech, gave most hard hitting and I thought articulate of all the speeches, but it was a good thing. And to me, that was part of the beginning of our communities, our county's response to the situation, which is we're going to make sure people know that around here, at least most of us are going to stand up and protect our friends and neighbors and family members from depredation. So that was really important. I was really glad I heard about it in time to get there. So that was good. I until a couple weeks ago was totally occupied with elections because I helped a number of local campaigns, as I think most of you know. It was very gratifying to see so many of our school finance measures passed. They were not all looking that good right after the vote. In fact, Scotts Valley only tipped above 55% 2 days ago.
It was news to me tonight.
Yeah,
Thank
and
goodness.
so, you know, it's not final. Tomorrow might be almost conclusive, tomorrow's counts in the county, but it won't be certified for another couple of weeks probably. But what a relief that the taxpayers saw, that the voters saw the reason to support education. That's pretty much all I have. And I am so pleased to have both of you here, to our student trustees. And one of the things that I realized just in the course of this meeting today is that our world of education is just full of special uses of seemingly normal words, acronyms, abbreviations, all kinds of stuff. And if you hear us present something or talk about something and you go, what's DJJ? You know, Department of Juvenile Justice. You know, I didn't know that the first time I heard that acronym, you know. So anyway, feel free to just go, what? You know, who is it? What does that mean? You know, just like you have license to understand, you know. So you have to ask sometimes, and you welcome it. So anyway, I'm just really pleased you're here and look forward to our service together.
I didn't get a chance to attend the press conference in person, but I got an opportunity to watch it and shared it. And it's inspiring to know that we live in a county where leaders protect the most vulnerable. And it's a proud community to be a part of. I attended with the county COE the Diversity Gala, which was an amazing, very fun event. I got to sit next to Edward here and we had a great time and a wonderful cause. I also attended Empty Bowls fundraising at Aptos High School that benefited Second Harvest Food Bank, and they put on a presentation, the choir sang and had great menudo and pozole and another soup. I can't remember because that. But it was all put on by their students. The bowls were ceramically made by the ceramic students. The food was made by the culinary department, and it was just a wonderful event, and I was happy to. And then our Inside Education group this month attended the San Lorenzo Valley Middle School and also visited the Hartman School at the Juvenile Hall. And the things that they've done there at the Juvenile Hall to make it feel, you know, more punitive and more of a learning environment is very inspiring. And listening to individuals there hear about how they are learning and excelling there is also great staff there, and they have great hearts and just want to do good by the students. And so that was really nice to see. And I'm really excited to see how the program Ascend will be, you know, affecting, you know, that hopefully reducing. And it's more about students in the diversion program versus ending up in the system and curtailing that. So.
All right. I want to start by apologizing for not being able to attend the meeting last month. I was traveling for work and I just couldn't make it in time. But I definitely missed you. It was a weird feeling knowing that the board meeting was running and I wasn't there. But I'm glad that there was a quorum and that business continues as usual. We had a committee meeting with PCS that I think I'll talk to a little bit more later. But Sue and I attended that on October 29th. And we also had a site visit. So we were there in the school and talked to a couple of staff members as well on that date. And that's what I have listed. That's my report.
I attended the diversity gala. I'm always excited when I got a couple of all glitter dresses. And I got to wear another one. Keep them alive. I attended the agenda committee and then also the PCS site. Do that a little bit more. What I would like to say is that I have some deep reservations over what our future holds. I don't look at necessarily 4 years, but 2 years, where perhaps some changes can be made in the U.S. But one of the things, and you may not agree with me, but the one thing I can do is commit to DEI here, especially, but as far as I can go. But one of the things, and this is with some of my acquaintances who don't necessarily believe the same way I do, they are totally turned off and confused by how, say, gender is referred. And having worked up at UCSC and all the different classifications which you can identify with, have turned off a certain segment of our society. I don't know what we can do about it, but I think that if a person doesn't understand it or it's too hard to figure it out, they say no. So I'll leave it at that. So, and I didn't make the where you were the star on the courthouse steps. I thought it was at 4 o'clock, and luckily I checked and found out no, it had been earlier. So, okay, any other statements?
I watched Ferris speak up for the County Office of Education on TV a couple of times. I told Ferris I had seen him on TV, and I like the way your face and your voice get around. And well, the community needs to know who you are. It's good.
Thank
Okay.
you. And I have to give kudos to Nick, who has really just taken us to the next level with our communication.
Yes.
And he was one of the key people that worked with for all your hard work.
Oh, and I just found out before I came that I'm on the board of the Girl Scouts of California Central Coast, and they just announced today that it's all very hush hush, but Monterey Bay Aquarium and a group of girls from our council made a film with the Rockabomb at Monterey Bay Aquarium. About the environment. Don't know, haven't seen it, don't know, but it's environment. Proud of them. Okay. Now to our standing committees.
Actually, I believe, oh, it is right.
Am I right?
You are right. There's none.
Okay, so it's been a while, but we got together with PCS now that we have a new school year, just to check in with them and see how that school site is doing. We were able to meet with Raytano, which is head of schools, got to meet with board members, got to meet with Aaliyah as well, who is helping lead the DEI there. A couple of points that I do want to mention is we looked at the enrollment numbers. You notice that there is they mentioned concerns and challenges with attrition, making sure that the students remain in the school site. They say that then there was graphs that I'm sure that they'll represent. One of the meetings, one of the reasons why we got together was so that we can ask questions, we can provide guidance in terms of what they will present to us. I believe it's next month is when they scheduled to represent.
That's correct. They're going to provide you the report by November 30th, and they will come to the board meeting at the December board meeting.
Okay. So we'll definitely have time to take a look at that and ask questions there as well. What was described was just the friendships. Students tend to make friends in school, and once your friend leaves, then other friends kind of follow and do the same thing. That's what they mentioned. But they also talked about the challenge of not requiring meeting to attend an information session prior to enrolling or putting your name on the lottery. They said that that might have been a reason why. And that's because some students might enroll and they don't necessarily know the rigorous academic expectation. So once the school does start, they can get that realization and they decide not to continue. So they talked about that, and we're asking about what potentially could help with that retention. So we talked a little bit, brainstormed on what we can do there. In terms of the demographics, again, I'm sure they'll talk in a little bit more detail. They are making progress. It's a little bit slow. I think it's slower than they would like, but it is trending to be a little bit more diverse. But again, it's very slow. And they also talked about recruitment challenges with their teachers. Just the cost of living, how challenging it is, and retaining teachers and having a diverse representation from teachers. Right? If you see a teacher that represents a community that represents you, then it's easier to feel safe. It's easier to feel like home and to feel accepted. So that's definitely something that they are looking at, and not only teachers, but also their board, right? Having a diverse board making decisions for that school. And we talked about their curriculum and about their performance and how they're just really doing a good job in terms of math and English. That school has always done a great job, definitely prides itself on preparing students for college, and the testing results definitely show that. That's it. That's my report.
The other, what I thought was interesting, at the end of the meeting, the president of their board asked about DEI and what kind of guardrails or responsibilities or laws or whatever to ensure that they continue down this road. And she speaks as a person of color. And I thought that, for me, it was very exciting to see that this is being embraced fully, and that she's concerned that it continues.
Just to clarify that, I don't think that was the president.
Oh, I thought she was president before. Okay, I missed that. But just that it was acknowledged. And she, yes. Okay.
PCS, we are the authorizing agency for that charter school. The charter schools have to be authorized by somebody. Usually it's a school district like Pajaro Valley or Santa Cruz City, but we are the ones who authorize, which then gives us an oversight, kind of a supervising role. And if they want to continue, eventually they have to come back to us and apply for extension of their charter. So we have a certain amount of leverage or ability to push them on things that are important to us. And one of the things that probably hear me say more than once, I've said it here many a time, is that they offer such a high quality education have such a high level of students being accepted into top universities. That if they're not actively working against the racist unequal status quo, then they're just reinforcing it. So that's my pitch on them, is that if they're not doing DEI, then they're not deserving of our support, because they're just going to keep the rich white people getting all the privileges. I mean, to put it a little bit too darkly, but anyway, so that's our thing. But they are doing, actually, in the last several years, quite a serious job of addressing those concerns and making the school safe and inclusive for all the various different people that might want to go there. So in general, I have gone from being a pretty negative skeptic to being a supporter, but I still want to hold their feet to the fire to keep improving. So anyway, that's just my background context. I'm sure you'll hear from other people too, how we work with them. They'll be here next month. Present.
Thank you, Bruce.
Sorry for the speech.
There are two charter schools that we oversee.
It's our own that we started.
Hmm?
That's our own that we.
Yeah, we
originated
started that one.
And I did want to share just that part of our process is to meet with the student trustees. I missed my orientation with the newest student, but so we'll be meeting with students, so we'll be able to provide some context prior to the next board meeting, because there's a lot of moving parts, and also for students to identify the areas that they want to be a part of the conversation and maybe ask questions and share their opinions. Working with them not only at the board meeting but outside.
Okay, so we're into item 14, schedule of meeting and upcoming events. And we had changed our meeting to December 12th, but under, I believe it's Education Code 35143, we were. So it looks like if we want to stay on a Thursday at 4 o'clock, the next appropriate meeting would be on the 19th of December. And this is giving all the election results are certified. Is there any? Yes, yes.
We just need a motion to change it. I'll make a motion to change December meeting to the 19th.
Motion by Rachel with a second by Bruce. 4 p.m. And this will be Sandra's last meeting. Be welcoming. I know. So I think this can be a voice. So do we have, is it a resolution? Or just, but our student trustees go first. So are you in favor of this motion of changing the date?
Yes.
Okay. The rest of the board, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the motion passes. And then we are tentatively set to have a board governance retreat, which would include all of us. And at this point, most everyone can make it on Saturday, January 25th from 9 to 3:30. It'll be held here. Or someplace here. Is there a motion?
I'll move. Okay, I'll move to schedule the board governance retreat for Saturday, January 25th, 9 a.m., 30 p.m.
Second. Okay. Certainly hope it fits your calendars. It's where it's an open public meeting. But it gives us the opportunity to get to know each other better, but also discuss our focuses and governance handbook and make changes. Or if you wish. So, your vote? Both of you? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And the rest of the board, all those in favor say aye. Aye. I hope we will be there, everyone. Very valuable, and we will have a facilitator who is from the California School Boards Association, CSBA, they call it. And anyway, part of our training. Okay, our next meeting will be what we just voted on, December 19th at 4 o'clock. So see you all there and welcome you. Meeting is done.